Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Monday, March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Wilson School Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Martin? Here.
Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. Negrini?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the posting of the colors.
Mini-THON, march. Colors, hold. Left, face. Ma'am, permission to post colors. Colors, post. Present, arms. Order, arms. Reverse colors, march. Right, face. Mini-THON, march. Forward, march.
Okay, our first communication is a presentation from the Mini-THON captains, Ms. Rebecca Marconi, the Wilson High School counselor, and the Mini-THON advisors. I would like to welcome them to the podium to introduce their students and share an update regarding the Mini-THON.
Hello, my name's Natalie Curtis, and I was our Mini-THON overall this year.
My name's Katie Dallas, and I was one of the co-overalls this year.
Hi, I'm Megan Russo, and I was another co-chair this year.
Okay. So what is Mini-THON? Mini-THON is a club at the high school where we hold events and many different fundraisers throughout the year to raise money for the Four Diamonds Foundation. This is where we dedicate all of our money to raising awareness for childhood pediatric cancer. This year, on Friday, February 25th, we hosted our 12-hour event with fun activities, dancing, different types of games, food, and different opportunities to meet and hear from Mini-THON families. Throughout the past 9 years, we have raised $620,754.02 at our Mini-THONs. So what is the Four Diamonds? The Four Diamonds is an organization founded in 1972 by Charles and Imra Millard. It was founded in honor of their son, Christopher, to assist different children and their families to fight against childhood cancer. Christopher was only 11 when he was initially diagnosed with cancer. Although he did lose his 3-year battle with cancer, his legacy lives on and inspires many different families around the world. The Four Diamonds are courage, wisdom, honesty, and strength, and we live by those 4 words in our Mini-THON community. So this year, I had the honor to be the overall. As overall, what I did pretty much was I oversaw all the different captains that you see up there, and I helped make sure everything ran smoothly at all of our events. Megan was one of the co-chairs. She was in charge of all of our night of captains, and she was kind of like more closely involved with them, helped them plan more throughout the year. And Katie was in charge of all of our pre-night captains, who were in charge of like planning our fundraisers and all of that. So our EMS captains this year were Sarah Asplin, Kylie Dries, Kira Hoffman, and Grace Mangold. Sarah and Kylie were in charge of our elementary schools, and they did an amazing job hosting different fundraisers like coin drives, coloring pages. All of the coloring pages actually were hung up to create the Mini-THON at our event on the bleachers. And Kira and Grace were in charge of our middle schools, where they did different coin drives, different PJ days, and different spirit days with them. Maddie Negrini and Natalie Riccitelli were our entertainment captains this year, and they were in charge of everything that happened the night of, from all the different, like our Zumba people who came, all the different bands that played. They planned out every different class wars event that we did, and they did an amazing job. Naisha Pruitt was our family relations captain, and she was who really got to bond with our Four Diamonds families. She was who connected us with them. She reached out to them all throughout the year, sending them what events we were having, so they were aware and were able to come. And she got a new family this year to come speak at Mini-THON, the Bancone family. Mr. Bancone came and talked to all of our captains right before the event, and then him and his daughter Natalie came and spoke the night of. Our hospitality captains, Kate Melandra and Dominic Stool, were the ones who got all of our food donated. They talked to all the local restaurant owners in the community, and they got them to donate throughout the year, not just for our event, but for other events that we had. Our morale captains, Mackenzie DeLuca and Emily Gallo, were the two girls who were up on stage every hour making the line dance. In the line dance, they have all of our events throughout the year, from sports to theater to the band. They had things that happened throughout the social media year. They planned it all the school year. That's what was involved in the line dance, and that happened every hour. Our operations captains, Mia Riccitelli and Eric Del Pizzo, were the ones who made sure we had all of our supplies at every event, from car washes to the night of, and they made sure everything ran smoothly, from having trash cans and tables to having our sponges at the car wash to making sure everything was in the right spot at the right time. Our communications captain then, Kamari Clark, was in charge of all of our medias. She posted everything, made sure the community knew what events were happening and when they were happening, what time and where. Our finance captains, Kylie McLean, Jonathan Ramsey, and Ryan Burkus, reached out to all of the corporate businesses in the community to get sponsors from them. Our merchandise captains, Emily Cherry and Mackenzie Gensmer, made all of our merch, our lovely t-shirts that we are wearing, all our gold out t-shirts that a lot of the community bought this year. Those were those designers. Our recruitment captain, Gia Jacobs, was in charge of our select committee, where we have 110 different students who are involved and come and help us out at car washes throughout the night of. They repost everything, so Gia was in charge of them. Our school relations captain, which was a new captain position, was Danny Radosh, and she was in charge of getting other clubs involved, our other sporting events, other sports involved, and made sure everyone was aware and everyone had a different piece to help out through Mini-THON. Then our special events captains, Amish Jindal, Maddie Altimore, and Elise Norman, were in charge of planning all the fundraisers throughout the year.
Okay. And now we'll talk about some of the fundraisers we had throughout the year. So our first fundraiser was the Green Valley Moonlight Swim, and it was a great fundraiser to start our year off with. Thank you, Green Valley, again for letting us use the pool. Everyone had an amazing time, and it was a great way to get the community involved. We had a lot of food fundraisers throughout the year, including PJ's, Yoga Crazy, Austin's, and Crave, and that was just a few of the many that we had. Next, we had our annual Gold Out football game, where the whole school showed up. They showed their spirit for supporting pediatric cancer, and also the football team won, which was nice. And then throughout the year, we had 2 spirit weeks, where the students and teachers got to show their support for the Four Diamonds. We had 2 car washes where we raised over $1,000 at each car wash, and we used the Fulton Bank at Giant. This year we started a new fundraiser, which was a 3v3 basketball tournament at Southern, so thank you Southern for letting us use their gym, and it was a great time to get a lot of different students involved. And one of our new fundraisers this year, again, was Zumba. It was actually a great fundraiser to have. It was a big hit. A lot of people came out, and we had a lot of fun dancing and working up a sweat. And then we also had 2 kids' night out this year. This happens every year. We had one in December and then one in February, where we got to have the kids learn a little bit more about the Four Diamonds while letting their parents have a night out and raise money for the kids.
All right, so for the night of, thanks again for letting us use the gym, and it was a huge success. And also thanks to the community for coming out and supporting us, and then for community hours. It was so great to see the whole community back together again. And during community hours, we had the concession stand, merch store, and several games for people to do at the event. Also, we had high school students performing their talents or band and on the stage so for everyone to see. Also, we revealed our elementary school total, which was $12,522.75, leading up with the middle school total of $4,024.87, which was very impressive, and we're so very proud of all the hard work our EMS captains did and the community of the elementary and middle schools with the fundraisers that they put together over this year. After community hours, there was the dancer hours finally begin, and we had our middle schoolers, we welcomed them to stay that extra hour to see a little bit of what it's like to be in high school for that cool hour, be a part of it. Also, during this hour, we had another talent show, and also the Bancombe family came by and spoke to us and talked to us about what Mini-THON and THON has done for their family. So it was really nice to hear from them. When the dancer hours started, we wanted to make sure everyone was busy the entire time. There was no time to think about how tired you were, so we kept them busy. And from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for those 12 hours. And so what we had 2 raves, Zumba, class wars, and so much more. And I'll have to thank Allison, Kim, and her sister for doing Zumba. It's always a hit. Everyone loves to get up and do some Zumba. Hair cutting, we have thanks for the people who came out for that. Dr. Weber, thanks for coming out and donating the Suma suits and the bouncy house. Also, Mr. Citrone, we are so thankful for you. And Mr. Bancombe family, we're so thankful that they were able to come out. Also, we made sure our dancers had food, so our hospitality captains did a great job at making sure there was dinner, snacks, breakfast, and obviously some other goodies along the way. And also, every hour on the hour, we had our line dance, so everyone, by the end, for weeks on end, probably had it stuck in their head, because it was every hour on the hour for 12 hours. And anyway, it kept everyone motivated throughout the night, and ending up, we raised $74,710.81 for such an amazing cause. Thank you again, everyone, and you're now going to take it, or Katie, take it away.
Along with our corporate sponsors, we had, including Penske, GT Church, Pivot, and East Penn, we had a lot of food sponsors. A few of them are Juliana's, Buca de Beppo, Redner's, New York Bakery, Tino's, Mama's, Paparone's, and Salute, and so many more. And we just want to say thank you again for donating to such a great cause.
And then, like Megan said earlier, we couldn't have done it without Mr. Citrone and the tech crew. They did spend the whole 12 hours with us. They controlled all of the microphones, all the slideshows. By the end of the night, I'm pretty sure they were very annoyed with us and us asking for the microphone at many different times, but we really could not have done it without them. And then once again, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors and the school district for making it happen. We wouldn't have been able to hold the event this year. Getting it in person again was amazing, and in the gym, and being able to stand for the 12 hours. I think all of the students really loved it, and that total wouldn't have been able to happen without everyone. So thank you.
Mrs. Cocker, may I make a comment? I want to thank all of the students and adults that were involved. I can attest to the fact that I brought my 4-year-old and 10-year-old to the community hours, and they had a blast in the Jumpy Castle, and they've already asked me when they can go back. So thank you for all that you do. I know this is a monumental event, and it happens throughout the whole year with the fundraising, and it's for a very worthy cause and something that the Wilson School District can be extremely proud of. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Carroll, no participation?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Cocker, may I make one announcement?
Sure.
Before we move into the formal part of the agenda?
Sure.
I wanted to announce that Crabtree Rohrbach and Associates have been preparing various versions of our bid tabulations for the high school addition and renovation project. based on many different deduct and add alternate scenarios that would affect the scope and cost of the project. We, as an administrative team, have been diligently working through these cost analysis, these bids, and based on those complexities, we have postponed our meeting scheduled for Tuesday, March 22nd, and we'll be having that meeting, board work session on Wednesday, March 30th, and that will be a work session of the full board for me to make my administrative recommendation to the board regarding phase 2 of, or excuse me, phase 1 of the renovation project at the high school. So thank you for your patience with us. We have been working extremely hard, and we want to make sure that when we do come to the community, we are prepared. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Faley. The board did meet in executive session this evening before the meeting to discuss personnel issues, as well as immediately following the previous board meeting on March 8th and the evening of Monday, March 14th, all for personnel issues. 2.1, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the school board meeting held on March 8th, 2022, as attached.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second? So moved. Mr. Martin, thank you. Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 3.1, Treasurer's Report. Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, I submit for approval tonight the Treasury Report, the Investment Report, the General and Capital Funds Report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
4.1, Payment of Bills. Mr. Negrini.
Move for the payment of bills from the following funds. The general fund, $1,657,053.98. From capital reserve, $24,346.74. From the 2019 A construction fund, $76,787.82. And from the 2021 C construction fund, $346,761.61.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
5.1, Financial Reports. Mr. Negrini.
Request to approve the financial reports for February 2022 for the following: cafeteria, child care, and activity accounts of Southern Middle School, Wilson West Middle School, and the senior high school.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Superintendent's report. Dr. Faley.
Thank you, President Cocker. I present this evening the personnel and program recommendations as listed.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve superintendent's items 6.1 to 6.7 as presented.
Casper?
Mrs. Casper, thank you.
Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
We would like to would like to request to accept with gratitude the donations from Mr. and Mrs. Robert Wolf, a check in the amount of $50 to be used for the music program at West Middle School. From Mr. and Mrs. Michael Brensinger, a check in the amount of $9,860 to be used to buy helmets for the high school boys lacrosse team. In memory of Leo Kohler, to be placed in the General Athletics Fund to be used for the betterment of the Wilson Athletics Program. From Sandra J. Kerber, a check in the amount of $50. Looking for a motion to accept the donations.
So moved. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Under Human Resources, 8.1, request to approve the appointment of Nicole Reeser Mazer, preschool child care coordinator, Act 93 position, 12 months, $65,000, effective to be determined. Looking for a motion to approve. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Second, Mr. Hart, thank you. Any comments? Mr.
Mr.
Martin?
President, yeah, I know this was talked about at the last Finance Committee meeting, and it's kind of moving on fairly quickly, but is that budgeted? Is that going to impact the ability of the child services to break even for the school?
Okay, great question. Dr. Fadley?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for your question. Yes, we have calculated in this position into the budget. If the board would recall, several years ago, we put this position on hold in anticipation of moving forward with a new plan. That position was assumed. COVID happened, and we've got around to meeting as our ad hoc group. This has been brought through the process of the HR committee with a recommendation from that committee to move it forward for full board consideration.
Thank you,
Mr.
Dr.
Martin, I would just note that later on in the agenda, there is line items for change in rates of the child care program that's reflective of obviously some of our cost concerns.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, looking for a motion to approve. I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Mrs. Cocker, Nicole is present this evening. I'd like to have her stand and welcome our newest Wilson Bulldog. Congratulations.
Welcome. Under Student Services, 9.1, request permission to approve the adoption of a tuition contract agreement with Children's Home of Reading, the cost of $216.32 per special education student per day for the 2021-2022 school year. 9.1, request approval to increase the vacant registered behavior technician position from 29.5 hours per week, not to exceed 35 hours per week, making it a full-time position. Looking for a motion to approve Student Services Agenda Items 9.1 and 9.2 as presented. Mr. Hart, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper?
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any comments? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Technology, 10.1, request to approve to enter into a 36-month contract with Granite Telecommunications to replace 40 phone lines at a cost of $1,398 per month, which is $34.95 per line. Looking for a motion.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Operations, 11.1, request to approve a contract with Choice Live, rental of a 8x15 mobile LED screen for the Wilson Class of 2022 graduation event in the amount of $7,724. Looking for a motion for 11.1.
So moved. Case.
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Kennedy.
Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion?
Dr. Faley, if you don't mind, if you want to, can you talk a little bit about the cost of renting out large facilities? If anyone would happen to see, why are we renting jumbotrons for Wilson, and kind of the comparison between renting a giant hall or the Santander Center for graduation and doing it at home?
Certainly, Mr. Case. As you well know, the graduation has been a huge success, bringing it back to our football field, not only for the community, but also for our students. It is at a fraction of the cost of renting out Santander Arena. This is a huge discount. I'm not sure of the exact figure. Christine, do you know? I do know it's in excess. I'm not going to guess. It is more than the renting of a jumbo screen for graduation at Santander. This makes it a community event where our entire community can be involved. We have a route through our community where our students can be recognized and supported. People line the streets. They hold up signs. They make this an extremely special event. Over the course of the past couple years, we've even been able to have fireworks donated as part of this process. I know the committee that is responsible for this portion of the school year has been diligently meeting to plan for this success, but this is at a much reduced cost. And I can provide that update at the next meeting with the exact amount.
Thank you.
Mr. Case, the other thing I would add to that, obviously, 2020's graduating class, it was the middle of the pandemic. We obviously needed to make some adjustments in order to have graduation that year. But what was the genesis of continuing on with that was the student body. It was that year's junior class that said, we want to do exactly what that 2020 class did. And the more voice that we give to our student body, and especially to our soon-to-be graduating seniors, I think that is an example of some leadership besides the fact of bringing the community into that event. It's certainly giving those graduating seniors a voice, and that seems to be the continuing theme of what they want.
My only question now is, if this is what they want, when does it become cost-effective to buy ourselves an LED screen?
That question, I think I would defer to Mr. Citron, but I can also provide that information. I'm not sure how much they are, but certainly they're probably a lot more than $7,724 if they're renting them for that. So again, I'm just pleased to be able to provide an experience for our students and our community that truly is reflective of the culture and environment that the Wilson School District is. It's a special place, and we should all be proud of our kids for speaking up and having voice in what their wants are.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Finance, 12.1, request approval of the Berks Career and Technology Center General Fund proposed operating budget 2022-2023 as attached. 12.2, request approval to issue a request for proposal to solicit proposals for photography services for the district. 12.3, request permission to submit one delinquent account to the Berks County Tax Claim Bureau. 12.4, request approval of the tax collector resolutions authorizing the deputization of the chief financial officer to collect the district levied real estate and per capita taxes, and approval of the associated agreements with the 4 tax collectors of the following municipalities: Lower Heidelberg, Sinking Spring, Spring Township, and Wyomissing Borough. 12.5, request approval of the budget transfers dated February 15th, 2022 through March 15th, 2022 as attached. Looking for a motion to approve finance agenda items 12.1 to 12.5 as presented.
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you.
Second, Negrini.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Any discussion?
Mrs. Cocker, if I could provide a little bit of additional information on item 12.1, the approval of the Berks Career and Technology Center General Fund budget. Just as a little context in how that budget is prepared and how it's transitioned to the sending districts. A little context, there are 16 Berks school districts that send students to the BCTC. 2 school districts, Muhlenberg and Reading, have their own career and technical center. The budget is calculated on a 3-year average enrollment in Berks Career Technical Center. That is 110.839 students, which accounts for 7.83% of the total 1,415 students. Wilson ranks 4th in highest numbers of sending students to the BCTC in Berks County, only behind Boyertown, Governor Mifflin, and Exeter. In the current year, we ranked the 6th highest, so we've had a concerted effort to increase our enrollment in the Berks Career Technical Center, but with that increased enrollment comes an additional cost of sending students. So therefore, our allocation for the general fund budget is $1,110,594, which is an increase of $130,106, or 13.3% higher than the current year due to the change in our allocation percentage. I know there's been a lot of conversation brought forward in public comment to this board regarding our efforts to increase enrollment in BCTC and to provide robust opportunities for our kids that have that need. And we're very proud of the increases that our team has made in this area, and it is reflected in the enrollment, our moving up in the standing as becoming 4th in the number of students we send to the Berks Career Technical Center, and it does come at an additional cost, but again, remember, that is a 3-year rolling average. So as we increase students, so too does our contribution increase as well. So for those in attendance tonight and for those that are watching remotely, I just wanted to clarify that this is an increase of $130,106 for our current budget that we are involved in. So thank you.
Thank you for the information, Dr. Fadley. Any other discussion?
Just, if I may, I know, just to piggyback on Dr. Fadley's comments, there has also been discussions about monitoring those enrollment numbers for certain classes that are taken at the BCTC and whether or not Wilson can offer the comparable services and programs here in a cost-effective way. Certainly there are some services that are provided at the BCTC that certainly just could not be replicated, I think, given what we have in terms of space over here that the BCTC does offer. But there may be some, again, I think I mentioned cosmetology as a potential, that those numbers seem to be fairly high, and whether or not we could offer that here at Wilson in an effort to mitigate some of those budgetary costs. So those discussions, I think, have been forthcoming, and we'll see what we can do in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under curriculum, 13.1, request to approve the virtual acceleration for original credit summer school program as attached. Looking for a motion for 13.1.
Kennedy?
Dr. Kennedy, thank you.
Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under childcare, 14.1, request approval of the proposed preschool and before and after child care tuition rates as attached. 14.2, request approval for employee bonuses from the ARPA grant funds in the amount of $600 each as attached. Looking for a motion to approve childcare agenda items 14.1 and 14.2 as presented.
So moved, Negrini.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Any discussion? Mr.
Mrs.
Negrini?
Cucker, yes. Regarding the differences between the before and after child care tuition rates and the budget for that program and our preschool program, the before and after child care program has always been break-even, self-sufficient in terms of those rates. It is well utilized throughout the district. The ongoing discussion through the years in terms of appropriate rates for the preschool program over at Berkshire Heights, and specifically at our last finance meeting, comparing Wilson's preschool, which is a four-star program, with KinderCare, which is the only other four-star program in Berks County, and those tuition rates. So this is a significant increase in the preschool rates. I believe it comes out to, Mr. McCray, about an 11 or 12% increase. It
Yeah.
still puts the tuition rate for Berkshire Heights preschool program below the tuition rate of KinderCare, but we're working towards, I think, perhaps for the following year, having those rates essentially comparable. So those are the reasons for the recommendations for those increases to the proposed rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
That's 9 yes, 0 no.
Under extracurricular, 15.1, request approval of the attached agreement with Honest Game to provide an online academic compliance solution to help track and meet NCAA and NIAA academic eligibility requirements. Looking for a motion for 15.1.
So
So
moved,
moved.
Negrini.
Mr. Negrini, first, thank you.
Martin seconds.
Mr. Martin, second, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under policies, 16.1 are just first readings of policies. 601, fiscal objectives. 602, budget planning. 603, budget preparation. 604, budget adoption. 605, tax levy. And 606, tax collection. Under miscellaneous, 17.1, request to approve the 3-year contract with Fulcrum Management Solutions, Inc. for the use of the Thought Exchange Small Leader Room platform for $12,600 in year 1, $18,000 in year 2, and $21,000 in year 3. The annual cost increases are due to the phasing in of expanded usage capacity for the district. The contract includes a 60-day cancellation clause. Looking for a motion for 17.1.
Casper?
Mrs. Casper, thank you. We have a second.
Kennedy?
Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
No.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
That's 8 yes, 1 no.
Okay, that brings us to committee reports. BCTC, Mrs. Casper.
There's no report. Our next meeting is Wednesday, March 23rd.
Okay, thank you. Would you, do you have a report for student services?
Nope, no report there either. Our next meeting is April 6th.
Okay, thank you. BCIU, Dr. Kennedy?
Yes, the BCIU met this Thursday night, hybrid. The BCIU had their 9th annual STEM challenge. 47 teams, 190 students from 11 Berks school districts participated. They are continuing to celebrate their 50th anniversary of the BCIU. On April 15th, they're going to have a media day where they're going to invite the media in and show them a bunch of great stuff about the BCIU over the years. On February 28th, the BCIU hosted an academic challenge with 14 teams, with 14 district teams. And it's really interesting to watch parts of it because it makes me feel really not smart like I used to feel. It's very fast-paced, it's very academic, and the kids that do it are just pretty amazing. Last thing is Dr. Hackman participated in a conference in Hershey, the Pennsylvania Association of Business Officials, where they discussed effective leadership during difficult times, what worked and what didn't work. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Curriculum Committee, Dr. Kennedy?
The Curriculum Committee has not met since our last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Berks EIT, Mrs. Schlossman?
No report. Our next meeting is March 31st.
March 31st, thank you. Extracurricular Committee. The Extracurricular Committee met last Monday, March 14th at noon, and I think the biggest takeaway was something that is in discussion and I think will be really helpful across the district, is the idea of a master schedule for events. So for example, we don't have, the biggest football game of the season on the same night as a play, on the same night as, I don't know, swim meet, the options, the possibilities are endless. So just kind of coordinating all of that and making sure that proper personnel are available for different events. I thought that was the biggest takeaway from the meeting, as well as I wanted to point out that our minutes are available on the website, so nobody has to miss anything. We cover athletics, facilities, aquatics, and non-athletic extracurriculars at our extracurricular meetings. And that's my report. Facilities Committee, Mr. Case.
Thank you. I won't repeat what Dr. Fadley said about the moving of the meeting to March 30th for the next facility joint meeting, so thank you for the update. Other than that, Mr. Simcox and his team, they're very busy getting all the equipment ready for spring and making our campuses look great, and a whole bunch of tree trimming, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Finance Committee, Mr. Negrini.
No report.
Legislative, Mr. Martin.
Yes, there's a few items for discussion tonight. As you know, that the state wrapped up their hearings on the budget, how to spend a surplus of several $billion. Every committee has the right to present their spiel to try to get a piece of that pie. Obviously, education was discussed, as the governor wants to put the majority of that into education as a one-time expenditure. But there's a lot of programs vying for drug and alcohol programs were there. Military Veterans Affairs, state higher education system was there for what they can get, as well as other state agencies. So they wrapped up, and now the legislators come back, and I believe next week the legislature will be back in session. They're in session for a few days in March and then 4 days in April. And then the big event comes in May and June when they try to hash out the budget. So right now, the budget is as it is. There's a lot of jockeying for that money, and we'll see where the coin falls on that one. This is, well, it's not a surprise to me, but the State House and Senate Education Committee voted to send letters to the Independent Regular Review Commission disapproving the state's request, to the State Department of Education's request for charter reform. Both parties had their reasons for that. So that will go back to that committee, that independent committee. I stress the term independent because they're not really independent, but sounds good on paper. So that got thrown out. So that's going to go back for some, jockeying for what is important, what's not important, and we'll see how the next version comes out. Finally, this is probably not a school, well, it is to a degree. They're looking at legalizing marijuana, whether you're pro or for or against, it doesn't really matter. That's not the discussion tonight, but they're basing it on, and here's where I have a problem. They think this is a good idea because it's going to raise almost $1 billion in revenue. I have a problem when something like that. We've done that with several things throughout the state where they raise things, not keeping in mind what's right or what's wrong, but we can generate revenues by doing this, and that's the wrong approach. So I'll leave it go at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
I'm sorry. Once again, the fair funding wrapped up last week, too, so that's within our Supreme Court, and I didn't hear of any timeline when they're going to make an announcement, but that's still going to be very impactful, whatever the decision is. Thank you.
Thank you. Human Resources, Mr. Hart.
No report.
Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Thank you. I have a couple items. First, I wanted to let you know that the Grandview Gallery is inviting all of you to the opening reception of their next exhibit, which is called Nature's Beauty Captured Through the Camera Lens of Joe Endy by photographer Joe Endy. So just as a reminder, this is the Grandview Gallery. So we invite you to come back here on April 2nd from 1 to 4 to see Joe's exhibit of award-winning and breathtaking photographs. Light refreshments will also be served. I have a couple of Wilson Good News items I'd like to share. First, on Saturday, February 26th, 10 juniors and seniors at Wilson High School participated in the annual M3 MathWorks Math Modeling Challenge, which is a 14-hour math modeling competition. So just, isn't that amazing, right? We had kids here and their advisor, who's Beth Levan, here for 14 hours on a Saturday. So it's exciting because the team of Noah Barnt, Luke Klein, Ian Metzger, Colby Snyder, and Medhanish Singla have been chosen to advance to the second round of the M3 Challenge, and they remained a contender for a team prize of between $1,000 and $20,000. Only 113 of 612 teams that submitted viable solution papers, which is about 18.5%, were selected to advance to the second round of judging. So we certainly want to wish them the best of luck, and we also want to just congratulate these talented students. We also want to recognize that 4 seniors who met the requirements to move from National Merit semifinalist to finalist standings. Those students are among 15,000 students nationwide who have received this honor. So we want to congratulate Luke Klein, Nolan Pagolo, Medhanish Singla, and Colby Snyder on achieving that honor. And then finally, we want to congratulate Wilson West 8th grade student Heidi Ding, who qualified to compete in the PA Math Counts state competition. So congratulations to all these students. And then finally, we wanted to let everyone know that nominations are now being accepted for the Wilson Extraordinary Teacher of the Year. Anyone can nominate a Wilson teacher for this special honor. 2 teachers will be selected, and each will receive a $1,000 award, $500 from Sun Federal Credit Union, and $500 from the Wilson Education Foundation. The link to the application form is posted on our district website, and applications will be accepted through April 30th, and we want to publicly thank Sun Federal Credit Union for once again sponsoring this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Troutman.
Mrs. Cocker, can I make one comment regarding the National Merit finalists? A district our size having 4 National Merit finalists is a significant accomplishment, and I think we need to make sure that we give the credit not only to the families, but also to every single teacher that held those high standards for these individuals to strive and learn and represent our community at such a high level. This is a tradition in the Wilson School District. We have received national merit finalists, or our students have done this for many years, and I'm very proud of that accomplishment with the very high academic standards that we have in our school system to allow this achievement to occur. Thank you to the teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Faley. Education Foundation, Mr. Case.
Thank you. The Education Foundation met on March 11th. It was a really good meeting. Had some special guests, Joe Malagrana and David Dunkelberger were at the meeting to talk about all the great things that they do with the STEM program, the tech program, and all the things that, with the Ed Foundation donating to them and some of the materials that they purchase that they have to keep purchasing year over year. They talked about all the great things that they do with them. So it was much appreciated. And then also within the meeting, they talked a lot about the earned income tax credit, which they're kind of talking about how to extend that program. And if anyone's not familiar with the earned income tax credit, I advise you to reach out to the Ed Foundation, Molly Mack at the Ed Foundation. Basically, if you're a business, you can donate up to 75%, you can get your donations back, even up to 90%. And the Ed Foundation's looking at ways where if you get involved with pre-K programs, as a business, if you make a donation, you can get 100% of that donation back. So they're taking a look at those programs and some really great things. So if you're a Berks County business and you're interested, again, reach out to Molly Mack at the Ed Foundation. With that said, thank you for whoever put this on here. I'm going to do a little pitch for the Ed Foundation and all the great things that they're doing this spring for to get some donations. So Family Pasta Night. Thank you all thank you to all who have bought meals for pickup this Friday, March 25th, from 4:30 to 6 p.m. It's a reminder that there's pickup for that at the Lower House cafeteria. Also, there's a WEF golf tournament coming up and a fundraiser, and I know everyone's asking, how can I support that? And there's a couple of ways. You can sign up for golf. You could also do a family fun event in the morning. Also, there's you could support by purchasing a Tees Green sign, so those are still available. And you could also donate an auction item or a raffle item. Also, you can buy a ticket to the spring soiree after party, French always gets me. Dinner, live music, function, and raffle. So there's barcodes out there, QR codes that on the flyers out on the table on your way out. You can, if you're interested in understanding a little bit more about what these things are about, please scan and take a look. So the next meeting is May 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Technology Committee, Mr. McCray.
No report. Our next meeting is April 19th.
Thank you. Student Outreach, Ms. Greeny.
First of all, Wilson Theater Company performed their final production of their season this past weekend with the musical Guys and Dolls. This was their fourth and final production. The shows were really good. I ended up going twice, and both times were really good and very well attended. They will also, in late April, be having their annual one-act play festival. Additionally, spring sports have officially started last Monday, so at this point, all of the various teams at Wilson have begun practicing and competing to kick off their seasons. And finally, on Friday, March 18th, the Mental Health Council organized a clothing drive. This drive was open in the lower house parking lot to all students and community members if they wanted to come donate or take any clothing items needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Greeny. Mrs. Carroll, do we have any participation on non-agenda items?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moravich, you're off the hook for your speeches tonight. It's a first. Is there any other business from the board? Mr. Martin?
Yes, I've been holding off for the last couple of meetings, but I do have some items I would like to discuss. And when we talked about a little bit today briefly in the career pathways in VOTEC, but I met with a group of parents, none of which are here, or I don't think ever been here at our meeting, so I don't want to influence any decision, but to discuss career options. They felt that their requests, needs are not being addressed in a timely manner. Curriculum is still focused on only those that go to to college while there are other jobs that are available, either through trade schools or various internships and such things, such as plumbing, electrical things, things of that nature that they're missing out at. They pointed out that we're quick to react to political issues at the school board, but for some reason we're turning our heads into turtle crawl for these, changes to our curriculum, or at least getting parents to understand that, college isn't necessarily the best route for everybody. I think that they basically said it's time to really see some movement with the school district to see what can be done. And it was kind of interesting because obviously I'm older than most of those people who were present, and they were, they asked me what I thought about, the trades and so forth. And I said, obviously, it's very important because 60% of everybody that goes to college either doesn't get a job, they flunk out, or they find a job in a remedial field. So it is very important because the burden on the parents, if they're paying for it, obviously, or the system, if the government's paying for it, is enormous. So I think it's time to rethink our strategy a bit. And I realize that from a standpoint of, looking back 30, 40 years, we don't want to go back into exactly that mode. But one person pointed out, I said, what did you do, when you're in junior high? I told him, well, I had wood shop. Every boy had to take wood shop. Every boy had to take a graphic arts course as well as metal shop. And I'm not saying we should do that. What I'm saying is, though, but that opened the door. We have some, people that back then they went into carpentry, or they went into their own business, or they became welders. I think if we have a program where kids could experience, boys and girls, I almost said men and women, boys and girls, if they could experience some of this stuff, I'm not saying making it, a yearly course like they had back in the day when everybody, 7th grade, you took wood, et cetera. But if we could have a program where you could spend 6 weeks or something or more in experiencing some of these issues, it may help develop some students' minds about what direction they want to go into. I mean, I took, in addition to those, the three I talked in, at a school I went to, we had electronics in our 10th or 11th grade. You could take electronics and learn about electrical things, which I took also, because it was just interesting. And to this day, I can repair your radios, I can do stuff. That's not what I don't get paid for that, but it was something that, turned lights on for other things, that there's other things other than just education. So I feel that we're not doing justice to that, and I understand the pressures put on schools for grades and, moving kids on to different, areas in college. In fact, I think one school about 4 years ago was really proud that 9/10% of all their kids went to either college or another school of higher education. I think that's not a very good goal, for me at least. I don't think that's a great way to do education. But I did want to bring that up because I did have, like I said, I met at their request, and just wanted to pass that on to see if there's something we can really say that we're doing other than what we're doing. So I think it's time to really look at that opportunities, because in 10 years there won't be any plumbers in case somebody wanted to be a plumber. Electricians are hard to find. Trade schools are open and looking for people. So that was the first item. Let's see here, okay. The next item is I was looking at the enrollments in our elementary schools, and I think we're rushing into redistricting. Based on what I've seen with the enrollment in the schools, we're way below what we originally thought our schools would be. And I know this back in 2000, all these schools were built for 26 students per class in the elementary school. We're down to an average of 20, 21 in the school. So I'm not saying that's the idea, go up to 26 for those areas, but I'm afraid we're rushing into a redistricting policy that may want to warrant some future discussion on, okay, we can get by with this with 24 in first grade or second grade. We don't, 17, 18 kids, I get it. But to spend $8 million just to keep the enrollment down to 22, 21, I don't think that's justifiable. So I think that really should be looked at before we rush out and have kids going here and there everywhere. And my final item, and I was going to do two more, but we're going to try and make this short tonight, Pennsylvania School Board Association, they have some good services, especially when it comes to helping school districts with policies to a degree, and also to helping surveys on compensation. But where they go wrong is they're very gung-ho from the standpoint of they don't care if, we raise taxes 4 or 5 times the normal. They don't care about seniors lose their homes. And they're aligning themselves with organizations which I think are questionable. If you read any of their updates, this one organization, which they choose to, use quite as a reference, it was called if I can find it now, it's called the Pennsylvania Capital Star. It's a nonprofit organization, quote, it's supposed to be independent, but it's not. But they were trying to compare the rise in January 6th, which, depending on what side of the fence you're on, about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, to the Republicans' response to the war in Ukraine. They were trying to compare the two. And when you have that type of a bias, when you're comparing a Republican response to Ukraine and a Republican response to a situation January 6th, I really question the validity of that stuff. So that's where I think the Pennsylvania School Board Association loses interest, my interest, when they support or associate themselves with statements like that, organizations like that, and I'll leave it go at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Martin. Any other discussion?
And Mr. Martin, and maybe Dr. Fadley, you can help out here. I feel I'm missing something, at least at the middle school. I agree with much of what you said, Mr. Martin, about what we're doing for our future for kids not going to college. I just had a question with regard, my son went through a program at West Middle School, and he had a great teacher, Jeremy Platchik, who taught him how to use a chop saw with 2x4s, etc. I have a chop saw at home, and Jeremy was much more patient than I am. So I'm glad he actually kind of taught him instead of me. So is it something that's missing at the middle school? Because I'm trying to wrap the high school, sure, but at the middle school, I think we do a pretty good job between the two middle schools.
Correct. There is a tech ed class that all 6th and 7th graders are required to take, along with a family and consumer sciences class that all 6th and 7th graders are required to take. In their 8th grade year, there's optional electives for both of those as well, too. I don't know if you want to add anything beyond that, Dr. Fadley, but that is part of the program. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I toured the facility over at Southern, and I did talk to some of the. It's a watered down. I mean, I'm not saying that. I think it's a great idea, but I think we're not opening. That's just one piece of the pie, and I understand that. I toured it. I actually had and he does a great job. I'll tell you, that's what I've seen. That was a great job. But we got to open that window. I guess I'm stressing the point is we got to open that window. It's the same with the parents. The parents, I understand. Every parent wants their son or daughter to go to college. I get it. But it's maybe not be the appropriate vehicle to do that. And we got to get the students to see the various opportunities that exist. For instance, we had a Cub Scout program. It's called the Weeblos, and one of the requirements is called Build It. And we had the part of it that says you list all the jobs that you can do in the construction industry. Well, they came up with 2 or 3. So we had a gentleman come in in the construction industry, and then by the end of the night, there was like 38 jobs you can do, from surveying to bricklaying to electricians to mechanical. Half these people didn't even know these jobs exist. That's all I'm saying is we gotta, I understand the purpose of education is to focus on, being your best, but we gotta open that door so that you're not channeled into thinking you have to go to college. That's all.
I think, Mr. Martin, what you said about the parents, I think is a key piece to it as well, because in our schools, I think there could be a little more focus on career exploration, possibly, maybe like through a school counselor. I know the students create their own profiles with career, future career as like a point on that. And they, have that, I think, created since like 3rd or 4th grade, and then it follows them throughout. And in the middle schools, they have a career fair where they have, a huge variety of different kinds of careers, public service, medical, I'm sure electricians, more in the labor, the skills fields.
Trade skills.
Right. And I know that they have that for the students, but then, the students take that information back home and either have a discussion with their parents about it or don't. So I think that's a key piece too, maybe education for families on the possibility of, different avenues for their children, trade school after high school, not necessarily college. Because I think we do a good, we have a good variety of opportunities for our students to see what's out there, as well as I know that this year, I don't know if it had been done in the past, but definitely this year, there was a packet sent out to every 9th grade family about BCTC. So the education is there and the information is there, but I don't know how else we bridge that gap into kind of encouraging families to have those discussions. But that's an important topic to discuss.
I think this is all a really good conversation, and I concur that we can do more in terms of promoting career education, because we all know that our students in our school district are not all going to be college bound. And one of the reasons why we have embarked on the work of system design in our school system and redesign in our school system has to do with those particular focus points that members of the community and members of this board have said are a priority. So first and foremost, one of the challenges that we currently have, and we're exploring how to conquer this challenge, is students in middle school. And I do concur that our middle schools do an excellent job of doing that exploration in a number of ways with careers. However, there is currently no option for our freshmen 9th grade students to attend the Berks Career and Technical Center. It does not exist. There is a small percentage of students with special needs that do get accepted into BCTC. However, they go from 8th grade to their sophomore year. We do focused efforts in 9th grade. We bring the BCTC to our schools. They have presentations with our kids. We take our 9th graders actually to the BCTC campus to do some exploration. The challenge is once students get ingrained in their high school environment in 9th grade, it's very, very difficult to get them to go somewhere their sophomore year. So what are some of the things that we've addressed as an administrative team? First and foremost, we've taken a very hard look at what a profile of a graduate in the Wilson School District looks like, and how can we make our graduates career, life, and college ready. All three equally as important as each one of those things. They're equally important because we know we have students that will go to college, and we need to make sure we push the bar academically, which I think you saw from our National Merit finalists, we do a pretty good job of. We also have students that will not go into a career track, and those students need to be life ready when they graduate from high school. So we do things like financial literacy and things to prepare them for life. And we also have students that will go into the trades, the careers, the vocational, the military, and we need to make sure that they're prepared for those avenues as well. So what we've been doing, and I have tasked Dr. Trickett at the national level to become a part of a consortium of other school districts across the United States that are focused on this profile of a graduate. And we've been researching. We've been working with various stakeholder groups in our community, parents, students, graduates, and our professional staff as well, to really identify those indicators, those measures, those things that we know that we want to focus on moving forward, and that is going to be coming to the board here very soon, probably in the month of April, towards the end of April, for the board to consider the profile of a graduate of the Wilson School District, taking into account Mr. Case, Mrs. Cockers, all the board members, Mr. Martin, and the conversations that we've had, the public comment that we've had from our community, indicating what are you doing, how are you moving the needle on career exploration, how are you moving the needle on getting kids to attend the Berks Career and Technical Center. As evident by our increased general fund budget, we have increased the numbers of students that are going and attending based on that 3-year rolling average. We've gone from 6th to 4th in the county in the number of students attending Berks Career and Technical Center. But we would all agree, my entire team would agree, it's not enough. And that is the challenge. How can we make meaningful experiences for students in that bridge from 8th to 10th grade that really gives them the passion and the desire to move into those educational tracks so that they can get these experiences? Because Mr. Martin is correct. Plumbers, electricians, masons, any of the trades are in high demand, and there are jobs waiting for them. They are unfilled presently across this county in the thousands where we don't have enough of those individuals. So that task is to educate our parent community as well, to get them earlier than at high school in 10th grade when the decisions that they've have encountered have already been made. We need to start doing these things earlier. That's why we're doing many things now. I think the curriculum committee had a presentation about what's going on in 5th grade, what's going on in 4th grade, because we have to light that fire and that spark and that passion in our students before it's too late for them to make those decisions. So to the conversation this evening, our team has been very focused on making sure that we address what has been communicated publicly from our community. Board members hold me accountable and my team accountable for increasing the numbers of students that go into the career track. We would like to be the #1 district in terms of sending students to BCTC, but that takes a strategic plan, it takes concerted effort, and it takes not only the school district, but also the parent community and the students to access those programs that currently exist. And it may take some creative ways for us to develop through our curriculum committee experiences at our 9th grade, at the 9th grade year, for students to have those options so that they can say, hey, I like plumbing, or hey, I like electrical work, or whatever the case may be, so that we can convince them that they are gifted in that area and they should proceed to the Berks Career Technical Center for advanced work in those competencies, because those programs do exist. So it is a work in progress, and we are working very, very hard to try to meet the demands of this community. Thank you.
Dr. Finley, President Cobb, I just wanted to add one thing for families to clarify that just because you're pursuing a skill-based career does not mean that that college is out of the question either. Many universities are actually accommodating and modifying their curricula so that it meets the needs of a lot of the skill-based career paths as well. And many of our BCTC is actually partnering with local colleges to be able to make it a little bit more affordable for students who perhaps are pursuing a particular career path to be able to continue on and go on to college as well. So, so it's kind of at all levels we're seeing this sort of shift in the way we think about careers and the way we think about education after high school.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Any other points of discussion?
I would add, with my tenure on the BCTC several years ago, I found that the BCTC was very maybe misaligned with regard to they always wanted to make sure that students that went into programs, finished programs, and got certificates. So they're very involved in that aspect of it. And I don't know if, I think there's a portion of it where they're held accountable by the state on those metrics, and we need to get away from that. If the superintendents got together in the school district, we are their customer, and we need to act accordingly. If the superintendents got together and said, we want freshmen to be a part of BCTC, we can do that. Our dollars are funding them, and we should be holding them accountable for what our needs are for our districts. So I'm not quite sure, I was always banging my head against the table or against the wall during my tenure there, why that has not changed since. So what is it? Do they not have the room? Do they not have, they have plenty of space? Or can they build another building? If that's the need we have, let's put that to them and say, hey, we want to be able to send freshmen there.
Mr. Case, you're exactly correct, and I can tell you that I've had that conversation with BCTC, previous director, current director, and with other superintendents in the county. Dr. Trickett has had that conversation as well, as he represents at the PAC committee, which is the committee of administrators that provide guidance. We have had some concessions, and the first thing you talked about was the focus of the BCTC being on completers. We have, Dr. Trickett and I have been successful in having students go in. They don't have to be completers. They can experience some of these things without that requirement. But it does impact their reports as a BCTC in terms of how successful they are in the competencies and the completers and those types of things that are measures of success for those types of programs. Again, we are pushing the envelope on that, and we have one voice in that, but you are correct. The more voices that agree on that particular issue, the better opportunity we might have, because I can tell you there are other BCTC, or not other technical schools in the Commonwealth that do have more involvement at the younger grades, particularly at the freshman level. So it is. I don't make those decisions for our current technical center. I provide the input, and we work through the process. So I think one of the things that can impact this change is board representatives that serve on that committee. Mrs. Casper, if you could echo that is the sentiment of the Wilson School District from your board seat on that particular group, that would be, I think, very powerful, especially if you can convince other reps that attend with you that they should do that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Case and Dr. Fadley. I would definitely continue to do that on the JOC board.
All right, thank you for that discussion. Any other points of discussion for the evening? Okay, I'm making a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Meeting adjourned.